Hey guys, we are back at Taffington Boathouse, and today we are going to be building a Minuteman guard station, as well as a few of the shops here at the trading outpost. Now, if you recall from the last video, Clara, the ghoul who runs this place, has turned it into a pretty successful operation, and today we're going to see some of the shops that make that possible. So let's get started, shall we? So we'll start things off with the larger of the shops today. And of course, I'm going to be using box houses. I just love building in shipping containers for some reason. But we're going to do something a little bit different here. We're actually going to join two shipping containers together. And this is going to be a shop for Trashcan Carla. So I figured it could be fairly junky. It kind of fit the theme there a little bit. So right here, I'm just getting the placement down right, and we're going to put two shipping containers side by side. Now, since we're building just outside the settlement area here, we're going to actually have to place everything in the settlement and then drag it out and put it in place. So that's why you see me placing stuff and then moving it over. Now, I did want to make this structure a little bit wider than a normal shipping container. Well, then two normal shipping containers. So we see we're going to have a little gap there, and we'll just close that up with some boards later on. Now, I'm not going to show you this whole process of snapping the walls on. They literally just snap like any of the other tile sets. Just trying to figure out exactly which wall to use. And then, of course, you know, how it looks from the other side. Now, originally I thought I was going to put a door here leading out into the settlement, but decided against it. So as you can see here, I've left a few gaps in the ceiling as well as in the walls, and I figured they're able to find these shipping containers, kind of piece together a full structure using the containers as well as some corrugated steel and bits of wood to just kind of make this complete structure. It's going to have a really nice junky look. I think it's really going to fit with Trashcan Carla's theme, and yeah, it ends up looking really cool. Now it's time to patch the floor. So you can see here I'm using the floorboards that have little bits of wood attached to the floor, and we want to place them using Place Everywhere so that the little bits kind of poke through the container floor there. It just adds a little bit more of a junky look. You just want to make sure not too much of it sticks up. Nice. Now I had the hardest time getting this roof into place when it turns out they all snap together, and I knew that for some reason. I just didn't think about it here. But basically what we'll do is you'll see here in a second, I just snap it to the side of the shipping container right there, and then we can go ahead afterwards and raise it up to the correct level so we don't have that weird gap. Would have saved me a bunch of time if I would have just done that to begin with. So you can see here, we just want to raise it up, but we don't want it to clip too much. You want to see most of the steel. And there is a little gap, but we fill that in later. Now I'm not showing patching up all of the walls. The technique is basically the same. You just take the wall and line it up with the shipping container, just so it doesn't clip too much on the inside. And it's just a matter of lining up the wood there so it is even. It looks pretty good. Now the wall they used to patch the shipping container had a pretty big hole in the middle of it, so we're going to use some of these boards for patching up windows and doorways to just kind of make it look even more junky. It has a really cool wasteland vibe to it, and you'll see here in a second when we look at the other side. Just a matter of lining it up. They're a little tricky for their snap points. Nice. So now we're going to add a little more detail to the front and just kind of change up the texture a little bit. So we're just going to glitch in some bits of wood here to this little half wall, just to make it look a little more interesting to look at. Some kind of wood with gaps in it works really well, and then we're going to use some more of those boards for covering up windows, just to add a little bit more of the corrugated steel look to the front. Looks nice and junky when we're done. So yeah, look at that. And of course, it does stick out a little bit, so I just want to slide that into place. Nice. The ground is fairly uneven here at Taffington, so the shipping container kind of floats a little bit in the back, so we're just going to go ahead and take some of these cinder blocks, just prop it up a little bit. So now we're going to build a little staircase for getting inside the structure here. Now I've used this technique before in my Merkwater construction site, I believe, as well as my Raider throne, and each one of these pallets acts as a step. It's about the same height as the vanilla stairs, so they work out really well as for walking up and down them. Just a matter of stacking them in an interesting way, and then getting them so they don't clip with the floor of the shipping container there. So just you can see they clip a little bit. Just a matter of lowering it down some. And I really like using the busted up pallets. It just adds more of a kind of thrown together junky feel. Nice. Now a little bit of security for the roof, as well as a power source. Now those solar panels come from a mod, I believe it's called Solar Panels. I'll go ahead and link it in a Google Doc in the description. But they're super cool. They provide ambient power for any lighting you may want to have inside your structures. And they don't make any noise, so they're super cool. Highly recommended. Now for a little bit of extra security, we're going to have one of these chain link gates here in the front. Just a matter of lining it up straight, as well as getting it so it doesn't clip through the front of the shipping container there. Now I did have to extend out that half wall a little bit, and we'll get a closer look at that during the tour. Just a matter of lining this up. Now I did have a really hard time with the pole here on the right side. You'll see when I try to move the gate in a little bit, the pole doesn't go with it, so just a matter of lining that back up. Nice. So the base of this next structure is one of those red trucks that you find around, and we're going to go ahead and fortify the one side of it with a couple of these walls from the Homemaker mod. And the idea is that you get it close enough so that it looks like it's supporting the truck, but not clipping through. And then I put them, not quite lined up, just so it looks a little bit more thrown together. Now for the fortification on the other side, we're going to use sandbags, of course. You know how much I like using sandbags. They really fill in areas, and when they, kind of clip with the truck there, it kind of looks like they curve. Sandbags are soft, so you could cram them into certain areas. So we're going to go ahead and line the entire front of the truck with some sandbags. Now it's time to add a turret in the cab. Now I like using the turrets with the single leg, especially in a confined space like this. They just fit in really nicely. Now it does, sink in and not look quite realistic, but we're going to go ahead and cover that up with some sandbags. Now the idea is to get the sandbag in there so that it doesn't clip with the turret itself. So you can see when I add this in here, when I initially kind of put it in, you can see it clips with the sandbag there a little bit, so you just lower it to the right height. It looks pretty good. Now again, at Taffington, we have uneven ground. So this time I'm going to use some pallets to just sink underneath the truck, just so it looks like it has a little bit of extra support. Now we're not actually going to have a stairway leading into the truck. It's a truck bed. People can just climb into the back of it. Just a matter of lining it up so it looks realistic. And instead of extending out the pallets or putting another one in there, I figured let's change it up a little bit, and we'll use a cinder block on this side just to have a different texture in there. And then we'll go ahead and put one of these barrels to just hide any imperfections and provide a little bit of light as well. So here we're going to add a little bit more detail to the front of the truck, and I'm going to use cinder blocks once again. It kind of adds a little bit more of a fortified look to it as well. So it's just a matter of burying it in the ground and lining it up so it doesn't clip with the truck or the junk wall at all. You don't have to worry about getting it 100% straight. It kind of lends itself to the junky feel to the structure. It's looking pretty good. Now we're going to go ahead and add one of these barrels here for a little bit of extra light. Nice. Now, this being a trading outpost, you're going to need a place for, Brahmin to feed. so I figured I'd use the other side of this structure for some Brahmin feeding troughs. Wouldn't be much of a trading outpost if there wasn't more than one shop, so we're going to go ahead and put a weapons stand here by the road for Cricket, and we're going to use this telephone pole here as support for her shack. And now these pieces come from Thematic and Practical. There's a section for vendors. It's really cool, actually, and they just kind of snap together. So you can see here they have these like canvas roofs, and they're kind of this nice triangle shape. Kind of breaks it up from having all these square structures everywhere. And they're all wood, kind of junky. Now, if you remember, this is uneven ground here at Taffington, so you can see when I snap these walls into place, they just float, and it looks terrible. You can see that one's floating there, and this one's going to float as well. Luckily, the fix for that's pretty easy. You can actually just glitch another wall underneath it. Now, I opted to use the exact same walls both times, just so that it kind of looks like one cohesive piece. Just a matter of lining up those two vertical support boards there, and then getting the corrugated steel at the bottom to match up. Just lining it up, and it takes a little bit of patience there. Nice. Now, this last structure we're going to build today is going to be a guard station for the Minutemen that are stationed here protecting the outpost. And we're going to use one of these large semi-trucks. Now, there's some sort of facility up the road there, and it makes sense that they would have some large trucks they could then drag back. Just a matter of lining it up with the road and getting the angle correct. Now we're going to go ahead and fortify this vehicle here with a junk fence as well. This time we're going to use the vanilla fences, and I figured we'd use one with barbed wire here just to add a little bit more of a warning to it. Just a matter of getting it so it doesn't clip through with the truck, as well as using the side view mirror there to kind of line it up. Now this is a similar technique that I've used at Starlight, and we're just going to build a little platform here on the back of the semi-truck that we can actually have a guard station on. And it's just a matter of getting it lined up so it sticks over the edge of the wheel well there on both sides, just so we can support it with a junk fence, and then getting it so that's, you know, straight. Well, this is a lot easier not having to use the pillar and being able to use place everywhere. And you can see once you get the first one in, the other ones just kind of snap into place. So now we have the platform pretty well in place. We're going to go ahead and support it using one of these junk fences here. But I had a hard time getting the junk fence in place without clipping with the truck wheel well there. And so we're going to use a technique we used on the with the shipping containers, and just kind of move the floors forward using place everywhere, and just leaving a gap in between the two sets of floorboards, and we can just use some plyboards to cover up that gap, and it'll look just fine. Just a matter of moving it slowly forward until you get it in the right spot. Perfect. Now that we have the floor for the guard station complete, we're going to go ahead and add a railing there for the guard to stand behind. And inside of Thematic and Practical, we have these railings that work actually perfectly. They have a really nice junky feel to them, which kind of fits the theme that we've been going with today. And just a matter of lining it up, since it won't snap here in the middle of the boards, just placing it so it's more or less in the center and, you know, has a little bit of space on either side. I'm going to go ahead and add a turret to this station. And then, of course, we're going to need a way to get up here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the stairs. I don't know why I didn't just snap this into place, but you could have just snapped it. And of course, you know, we're going to add some sandbags here. Offer a little bit more protection, catch some of the bullets that might be fired at this thing. And also, just, I don't know, I like the way the sandbags look. Now when you're placing these, it's okay that they clip through the railing there. We're actually going to put sandbags on both sides, just so you're not going to be able to tell that at all. Now it's time to add the final supports for the guard platform. And we're just going to use some of these junk fences from the Homemaker mod. They have a really good fortified look to them. And, you know, I figured the guard station here is probably going to take a brunt of the fire if we ever get attacked. And for the rear support, again, we're going to use one of these junk fences here. I originally thought I was just going to have sandbags supporting this other side, but it just didn't look quite right. So we're going to go ahead and add another junk fence here. And I still like the way the sandbags look, and I'm going to leave them there. But we're just going to go ahead and use one of these junk fences to cover it up. So here we go. This place looks really cool. This is probably my favorite part of today's build. It just looks great. So you can see the approach here. I added a couple of cars to the outside. Now the one on the left is actually a guard station from Thematic and Practical, but since it's outside the settlement bounds, I can't get a settler to populate it. If you walk in through here, you can see I have some lighting spaced out, and of course we have a little scrap area with looks like some high-tech components laid out and some tools, a little bit of paint. Of course we have a motorcycle in here. Now that's actually a scavenging station. So if you have that inside settlement bounds, you can assign a settler to it and it'll produce scrap for you. I just thought it looked really cool sitting in here. And of course, you know, some old posters and chemicals sitting on the ground there in the corner for when you're working on the bike, trying to restore it. Then we have some shelving units here with various junk laid about on them. Of course, Trashcan Carla would sell different crafting components. Looks like some toys and stuff for sale there as well. Also looks like she was able to scavenge a whole engine, so that's going to cost quite a few caps, I bet. Now a lot of these shelves I actually got from Do It Yourself. It's a great mod, allows you to build snappable shelves and then provides different clutter you can fill those shelves with. And of course here we have Trashcan Carla's seat, so when she wants to take a break, just sit and relax. Now you can see there where that half wall meets the chain link fence. I added a bunch more wood bits to just kind of fill out that area a little bit and also extend it so it can actually meet where the gate was. You can see she has some ammo there behind the counter. Want to make sure you don't get attacked. I guess it's break time. Now coming around here, we have a little bit more junk for sale. Of course, there's some clothing there on that shelf unit. And that cap stash we have here is actually what attracts Trashcan Carla to this location. That comes from a mod, Thematic and Practical, in their vendor section. It's really cool. They have one for all of the Bunker Hill vendors. It comes with furniture as well as animation markers that only those vendors will interact with. It's pretty cool. Alright, let's take a look out back. Now I imagine this area would be for large scrap reclamation. You know, if they found a car or something they wanted to store back here, like this one, just awaiting to be broken down into components. And of course, we have an area for toxic waste processing. Nuclear material is definitely a good component to have. That wall came together really nicely. I'm really happy with it. Let's take a look at Cricket's area. So here we go on the road approaching the weapons station. Of course, we have one of Cricket's guards there on the left. And we have this little makeshift shack here. Now, if you know anything about Cricket, this is definitely the perfect location for her. She can keep an eye on who's coming and going. And of course, a little bit of a paranoia propaganda on the wall. And then various ammo and weaponry laying about. Of course, we have some helmets on the explosive crates there. Now, turning around this side, we can see underneath the counter. Of course, there's a 10mm pistol for protection, as well as a stash of caps and chems. We know how much Cricket likes her jet. Now, walking out this way, we can see a little scrap station attached to Trashcan Carla's area. Looks like it can produce some ceramic and other components. Now, coming around this way, we can get a small view of the rest of the settlement. Still have to fill the rest of that out. We'll work on that in the next video. And of course, another one of Cricket's guards, keeping an eye on things. Then over here, we have our Brahmin area. This is just 2 of the stalls. And of course, you know, there's a charge for that. Clara, the ghoul that runs this place, definitely will get her caps. Now you can see here the turret area turned out really well. I just love the way those sandbags fill out the truck and hide how the turret there clips with the actual truck. Now here in the truck bed is one of Clara's employees. She does not work for the Bunker Hill caravans, and she collects money from the caravans for using the stalls as well as the Brahmin feed area. And you can see she also has some fruits and Mirelurk meat for sale, and of course a little double-barrel shotgun just in case. And here we get a better look at the Brahmin. I really like how that turned out. Looks super cool. Well, let's take a look at the Minuteman area. This is the Minuteman guard station. Now, this outpost is not run by the Minutemen. Clara remains in full control of this trading outpost, but she does contract with the Minutemen to protect this and help promote commerce across the Commonwealth that they're trying to rebuild. I really like the way that junk fence kind of blends in with the truck. It looks super cool. Now coming around this way, we get a glimpse of the docks before we see the Minutemen area here. Now this is the area where the various Minuteman guards can relax, cook their meals there, and sit underneath the awning, a little protection from the rain and the sun. Looks like we have a meal set out here and some beer, of course, for when they're trying to blow off some steam. Now coming around this way, we can see the guard on duty there, wearing his field outfit, much different from the garb that they wear when they're at a Minuteman outpost. That's their field outfit for when they're ready for battle. Now heading up here, we can see he has a table set up with a meal and some ammo for those long days protecting the outpost. And of course there's a rifle there for those long distance shots. And look at that view. Well, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe if you want to know when my next video goes live. We should be here at Taffington to finish out this settlement. Leave a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions on how I can improve things. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and until then, enjoy your time in the Commonwealth.